Welcome to Buckets. My name is Matt Moore. I'm a senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and this is your NBA Best Bets episode and future look for Monday, October 27th, in the association brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Glad to have you guys with us. Make sure that if you're following us over on podcast side, you give us a 5-star review. We do appreciate those. Helps us out a lot. Whatever app you're using, even if you're not using Apple, like all of them have the rating system. Help us out. Like it helps out a ton. Go to youtube.com/the Action Network if you want to watch the live version of the show with all sorts of fancy graphics that I myself made because I consider myself an artiste of the visual. That's not true. I have terrible design skills, but I made some cool graphics for it. So you should check it out over at youtube.com/the Action Network. Download the Action Network app, sign up for Action Pro, and you're going to get like amazing stuff. You're going to get all sorts of great stuff. Biggest thing you're going to get is like Sean Kerner, whenever he makes a play, and he does make some NBA plays, you will get notifications instantly that he has bet that. And you want that because as soon as Sean makes any sort of bet, the market moves. Brandon Anderson, who had himself a day on Sunday. He had a very good day on Sunday. You get his picks. All sorts of great stuff. You got to sign up for Action Pro, though, using the Action Network app. Just download the Action Network app right now and sign up for Action Pro. Join me tonight, as always, for the future Jays. Joe Dellera from the Cash That podcast at Joe Dellera. Very sad after the Knicks took the L tonight to
Miami flu.
To the Miami flu. Spoiler alert, we'll talk a little bit more about that Miami flu coming up in a little bit. Also joining us from Roto Grinders, Turvey, James Turvey, Esquire at Turvey Bets, actually. Joe Dellera, Esquire, at Turvey Bets, joining us. Just got back in from radish picking in Vermont. So that's
actually I had a weekend away in the sticks. I was in Toronto for a wedding. So managed to find a spot even colder than Vermont to try and go for my fall weekend. But it was nice up there.
Excellent. You have more weddings than I think I know people. And
yeah,
I'm done. I'm done now. I don't think we have my wife. I don't think we have any weddings for years to come. That's what we're counting on.
Yeah, so that's like, the market's giving me plus 400 on me being done with weddings right now. On tonight's show, we're gonna talk about. So we kind of debated what to do on tonight's show because we can tell you where the market has moved in futures, but it's not going to have shook enough over 3 games for us to really be able to grab something significant. Obviously, we've had the big news this week. We talked about that on the previous show with all the stuff going on with Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier and on all that kind of thing. And you can get Joe, I thought, gave really good thoughts on that, which if you listen to the episode, you will not be surprised that there's now been follow-up analysis from places like The Atlantic that have said like, hey, so this indictment is weird. And you can catch more of Joe's thoughts on that if you go back. Because that was Joe's big takeaway was this indictment is weird. So we kind of struggled with it. We're going to just kind of bounce around and give us some early thoughts. This is just like way too early futures talk. And then next week we will dive in and actually take a look at what the biggest market movers have been over the first 2 weeks of the season. We'll have a big enough sample size then to kind of track where the markets have moved, which is not to say that there hasn't been movement because we have found some interesting things and we'll talk about them as the show goes along. We will also give you our official Future Jays Future of the Week, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. And we'll, of course, get you some best bets. Let's start, though, guys, by talk about kind of what we found in the market and where we're at from the perspective of like stuff that we've seen early on. And I don't want to bury the lead here. We have some bets that we've already made and some stuff that we are pretty high on. Let's start with Joe Dellera. And let's start with a prop that he found for a season leader that he thinks has a lot of value based on old Joe Mazzulla and those wonky 3-pointers he loves so much. What do you got, Joe?
Yeah, so I like Derrick White to be the threes leader on the season. I don't recall what it was before the season started, but at the end of the day, the volume is just preposterous. And we've seen this game over game, 13, 11, and 11 threes. The efficiency actually hasn't been great. He's only 4 for 13, 3 for 11, 3 for 11. But I do think that Derrick White is an excellent 3-point shooter. I think this is just something, you get these games where, or this little bit of variance where, you can struggle a little bit from beyond the arc, but he's definitely a better than a 30% shooter from 3-point range. So I'm down to bet on the volume here, especially, Jaylen Brown. He played on Sunday, but he was on the injury report for, I guess it was like a hamstring, wound up playing through it anyway. Awesome game for him. But, if Jaylen Brown goes down at all, ever, this season, I can't even fathom the number of shots that Derrick White is going to take in any given game. So Boston is leaning into the 3-point game. And I think that because we're seeing this volume, Derrick White's worth a bet. Normally the hardest part is getting that trust and getting that willingness from the coaching staff to say, yeah, please go out there, shoot 12, 13, 14, 15 threes in a game, and your name's not Steph Curry. Very rare. So I'm okay with backing Derrick White at that number based on the volume.
Joe, what is the number?
17-1.
Yeah, that's so I that's like about what it was. That's even slightly better than I think I gave it out preseason, which is nuts because he's currently leading the league in threes attempted per game. So great find of like an early season where they're almost adjusting the wrong way. I love this bet. I'm talking about Derrick White later as well, but yeah, I'm all over this as well.
Awesome.
I don't think I have to add much more here. Hey, the Celtics are shooting a lot of threes. Hey, Derrick White is still underrated in the market. You're still getting longer odds on Derrick White to do a thing that he's likely to do just based off of volume here. So yeah, like, think it's a great play. That's absolutely awesome. Great way to start the futures talk with Derrick White, threes leader, 17-1. That's a insane number, quite honestly. That's a good find there by Joe Dellera, and a good look from Jim Turvey as well. Jim, I kind of mentioned I wanted to look at divisions tonight early on before we kind of pivoted, kind of like opening it up. And you had done some work on the Southwest division. We'll talk about that in a second, but I want to talk about the Southeast before we hit there. So I am very locked in on the Southeast division this year because of one, my Wizards, who by the way played a great half of basketball today in the first half before LaMelo Ball destroyed them in the second half. As he does. Hornets, by the way, tied for the number one offense in the NBA through 3 games with the Denver Nuggets. LaMelo still has a lot of shots where I'm like, what are you doing? But when he doesn't, like in the third quarter, he had 2 plays where he just made sublime court reversals to Miles Bridges for 3. It was just awesome. But God, I love the Wizards. They're so much fun. But at DraftKings, here are the division odds. The Magic are minus 160. They were minus 130 at open when the season started a whole 6 days ago. The Hawks are plus 150. They were plus 130. Miami was plus 1,100. They're plus 1,400. So they've actually gained $3 in the market for this division price. The Hornets have moved from 75 to 1 to 150 to 1. Everybody's gone, everybody except Orlando. They've basically just taken money on Orlando, I guess. Orlando can't shoot still. I watched it last night. It was pitiful.
Yeah.
And the offense doesn't look different. And Paolo Banchero is really struggling to start the season. Now, the trick here, I think, is I don't want to bet what I'm going to bet based off of Orlando struggling. Because Orlando is still likely to be very good. And there's a lot of ways for that to happen. But I will say, one of the priors, if you were going to buy into Orlando's over and their division and all of this stuff, was this, things that have occurred, adding Desmond Bane, revamping the offense, internal development, should improve the offense. But we have seen no sign of that in preseason or in the first couple of games. Again, it's a long season, and by the second half of the season, they can be terrific offensively. But it's I'm looking for proof of life offensively, and there is none. So that to me leaves a vulnerability with Orlando here. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, do you think so? One of the things that I think were always shocked by were the metrics regarding Desmond Bane with those good Memphis lineups, and basically how it didn't matter whether he was in or out. Memphis basically had the same output in terms of their advanced metrics, their scoring, their defense, everything. I think Desmond Bane is the perfect player to add or to have added to this Orlando Magic squad. But do you think that there's something to that? He didn't as good as we think he is. He didn't really positively impact Memphis from an advanced metrics perspective. Is that a carryover here?
I don't think so, but I'm also I'm very Bane biased. Yeah. I love that.
It's early, but
I also think it's the idea should never have been, well, they got Desmond Bain, so now the offense will be fixed. It's not going to matter if Paolo Banchero is not efficient because Paolo's going to take the most shots. And if Paolo takes the most shots, and like one of the games he had 1 assist, that's yikes. Can't be Carmelo Anthony, only a worse shooter. That's not good. That is not what they need. There's a couple of, if you want some of the positive signs, I do think that guys like Tristan Da Silva looks really good. And I think Anthony Black actually has shown like a little bit. A quiet guy that they got rid of that I actually think that they shouldn't is Caleb Houston, because Houston was like the one guy who was like, hey, I'll take threes.
No.
Yeah. I'll take threes for you. And the fact that they have not done that, I think, is a little concerning, or that they're missing that kind of guy is a little bit of a problem. If we look at shot quality, right? So what's the expected EFG based off of where they shoot from? Orlando is 11th. So they are well behind where they should be on EFG, but like they have an expected EFG of 55% and an actual of 48, which is bad.
Tough.
Yeah. And so like I have seen this though, where there are teams that generate good shots and can't hit them. And what that actually means is they're not good shots. It's they generate good shot locations on bad attempts because they're contested. Like a lot of it is like Orlando was moving the ball routinely versus Chicago, but they couldn't create any separation. Like Chicago was there, which by the way, Chicago is really impressive defensively. But I am just like a little bit concerned about it. So anyway, if I'm concerned about Orlando, and I was already out on the Hawks, and nothing from the first week has made me be like, oh baby, Atlanta, nothing makes me feel good about Atlanta. Now, of course, we turn to my preseason priors, and there's nothing better than locking in on your preseason priors and doubling down. And the Miami Heat at 14-1. The offense is starting to cook a little bit after it struggled in the first game. Got a very good win versus the Knicks on Sunday. Absolutely annihilated the Memphis Grizzlies, who I thought had looked really good in the season opener versus the Pelicans. Like, I like Miami's entire 3 games. I like Miami's 3-game resume going into the second week. But I also feel like, look, if Miami rattles off a few more, this number is going to, like, they're going to pass at least, they may not pass the Hawks. I mean, look at this number, 14-1. What have we seen that makes us think that the Magic need to be this much of a prohibitive favorite? Not only that, but the market is this market at -140 plus 150 for Hawks says, well, if it's not Orlando, it's definitely Atlanta. Can
I hop in as the guy who was the preseason Magic lover? I've had Magic Division as one of my preseason best bets.
Yeah,
I gotta say, I don't mind this bet at all, and I actually think I'm going to tail you on it as someone holding a Magic Division ticket. And I'm going to do a small amount because the only pushback at all to the entire thing you said, I agree with 99%. I think that the first week proves that these numbers are kind of sticky, and we actually can wait and see how the Magic look for like another couple weeks. And maybe it goes down to Heat plus 800, but those next couple weeks may be very valuable because I want to see 2 things on the Magic side of this. I actually think the Heat side of it, and I'll defer to you more on the Heat side of it because I think you're more on I mean, it's your bet, and you didn't even get to the Heat side of the cap yet. But the Magic side, I'm a little bit worried that Tyus Jones is like not actually a good basketball player and was like a hipster fave for a really long time and might not actually be that good. So I want to keep my eye on that. But the Paolo thing is troubling. That the shot selection, the assists. This was a thing. The thing with Orlando is going to be okay. Now he's freed up to not have to do all that. If he starts to keep doing that, and like that's the thing that I think I could see fade in a couple weeks and be like, oh, okay, it took some time. Paolo's adjusting, but if he's just not adjusting, I think that's really bad news. And I don't know if the offense will get above that. Like, right now they're sitting 20th at dunks and threes. Like, is it going to get higher if he's not an efficient shooter and Tyus Jones maybe isn't, what the NBA hipster community wanted him to be, a few years ago when he was, a backup who was one of the more efficient guards in the league. I'm a little nervous on the Orlando side. So I really don't mind a Heat ticket here, sprinkling at this number. But I do think you can wait a little bit too. At least I'm gonna sprinkle a bit here because I do think it's a great number, like you said. but I'm going to wait a little bit. I might be adding, like, if the market really wants to stay on Orlando, even given the evidence in front of us that they're, not adjusting well to a new offensive look, I think this could be a look. We could be talking Southeast a bunch this season, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, what's the, like, when you look at Miami, right? Like, they built a pretty solid team, like, all around. So, I mean, they don't even have, like, Tyler Hero's out right now, too.
Yeah.
So, you get a little bit of injection of offense, for better or for worse, right? Like, he obviously has some issues to his game, but still, like, it's a little bit, he's a solid player that you're going to start adding back to that rotation. So, I don't think that when you look at even the roster constructs in that division, like, I think you have a legitimate argument to be like, who is actually the best player in that division? Like, is it Trey? Is it Paolo? Is it Franz? Like, even on the same team, like, is it, is Norm, like, is Bam, like, who is the best player in that division? It's really tough. And I think that that's one of those things where none of these squads can really default and just say, well, we got the best player, we're going to win games, our floor is really high. It's not necessarily there in the same way.
Yeah. On Miami's side, Davion Mitchell's averaging 8 assists per game. I love him as a passer. He's just he's tremendous. Although killed me in the Memphis game. They're killing in the bench minutes. Jovic's advanced numbers are incredible. They're getting the kind of contributions that they need. Powell's averaging 24 points per game in the first 3 games, which is obviously, like, that's a good sign. It's just to have somebody that can produce for them. But, like, Bam's at 19 and 10. Bam's at 19 points, 10 rebounds, 3 dimes, 4 turnovers. But he's doing the thing. And that, to me, like, they're getting the contributions that I think they need. And I think, like, the whole cap on them from preseason, why I like them was, hey, breath of fresh air. And Davion Mitchell, Spo, bounce back season. All of that looks good so far. So plus 1,400 will be mine. Jim, you've got a South division locked in on, but you like the Southwest as one for us to kind of look at. And it's going to lead into our official Future Jays Future of the Week, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. But let's get a little bit more into the conversation about what you like here in the Southwest division, because you got several bets that you like.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting division from, like, basically every team perspective. I think, unfortunately, the Pels, Joe, I know you and I wanted to happen. Not looking like it's happening right now, but the other 4 teams I do think are really interesting to talk through. You've got the favorite, who's Houston, remaining the favorite despite a winless start to the season. But I think there's they played the Thunder and they took them to double overtime. And then they had a kind of quick turnaround for Detroit. So we really don't know a ton about Houston. Then we've got the Grizzlies. I'm purposely saving one team for last year. We've got the Grizzlies coming in. You can get a plus 1,300 on them. They've had they're 2-1, 2 kind of middling wins, 1 kind of bad loss. But I think the health has been more interesting than.
I'm sorry, sir. Just real quick. We can't just skip over this as, like, kind of bad loss.
Yeah, that was really bad. To a really bad Pacers team.
Like, it was the Heat was the bad.
Heat, I'm sorry. Yeah. The Pacers don't have a win this season.
Yeah, the Heat game was the bad one. That was like I was at trunk or treat, and, like, my daughter was like, heard me go, ah! Like, what? Were you scared of the trunk steady? And I was like, no, the Grizzlies are down 40. It's terrible. Go ahead.
The big thing here, I think, is that the health stuff is maybe not as bad as we had feared. Like, a week before the season, I was bugging out that suddenly everyone was hurt and that, like, oh no, we went without Jaren for longer. Like, it seems like they're actually somewhat stable on the health front, which was the biggest worry with Grizzlies. If they're going to be relatively healthy, this was the team over the summer that, we were relatively interested in. So I think the 13-1 numbers there is interesting. Dallas is kind of, I want to wait on them as well. I messaged you the day before the season started, Matt, and said, I'm kind of semi out on Dallas. So I kind of jumped off that boat at that ship at the last moment. But I think we have to finish with, to me, the story of the first week is definitely Wemby. And I think that would be where most podcasts are focusing their energy. And I think it's pretty fair. I think he has the potential to be a top 2 player by the end of the season. Now, I purposely chose 2, not 3, because it's not even a take if you say 3. I think he's so good right now that I don't even think it would be a take if you said 3. I want to get us on the big official bet right here. When does EPM player ranks come out? They come in like a month and a half into the season, like end of November.
Yeah.
What rank do we think he has when those come live?
Oh God,
It's going to be outrageous. The defense is going to put it through the roof.
I think it's going to be number 1. Maybe Shea will be number 1. He'll be number 2. I think he might be ahead of Jokic.
I don't. It's not gonna be Shea. Think about what the Thunder have done this week. The Thunder wins are double overtime, and then like an okay, normal, not crazy win. Like they haven't been
double overtime against the Pacers, who were
bad.
Yeah, like I'm not worried. It's not like I'm worried about OKC at 3-0, but without J-Dub, like that's the whole thing. It's just like they're banged up. J-Dub's out, Casey Wallace, Alex Caruso, like they've had a lot of injuries early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I want to look this up real quick about the plus minus differential. Okay, so this is interesting. They're plus 14.2 in raw net with him on the court. They're plus 15.9 with him on the bench. They're killing it.
That's the other thing I was gonna say is they kind of have pieces right now and they kind of look good. Like Luke Cornett, I think was, it's like that's the hipster player. Forget Tyus Jones. Luke Cornett is the hipster player that is actually benefiting.
He's looked
this year, looking really good. Yeah, Stephon Castle has looked really good. Who I think is someone who people have questions about, like how he'd fit with the busier backcourt. Dylan Harper. I see Joe smiling over there for his favorite Dylan Harper, I think. But the Spurs team actually looks like a good team, regardless of Wemby. And then Wemby's doing like the most crazy shit ever. Now their schedule is kind of easy, but like even adjusted, they look really good. I think the ceiling here is still getting plus 270. We were out on the Rockets before the season. I haven't seen, Houston's been decent. Like I said, I don't want to be writing them off, but the questions about Houston were like kind of offensive creation. They have the worst assist to turnover ratio in the league so far. Is that partially because of playing OKC in Detroit? Yes. But also,
well, I'll tell you the reason that it's like they played Detroit, but Detroit
doesn't even look great, I feel.
Well, Detroit was, here's the thing, is more of that. Detroit was very deliberate, even more so than OKC. Because OKC is like, we do what we do, the same thing always. Detroit was like, you can't dribble, and we know it. And they brought doubles at Amen every time he was trying to get that ball over the court. And it was turnover city. So, I mean, it was like, I think that the offensive stuff is going to be a real concern, which makes Houston vulnerable. I think a lot of it here is, so San Antonio has a 120.2 offensive rating and a 105 defensive rating. Okay, we're 3 games in. Yeah. But I do think, are we buying high on San Antonio's offense? But they do look so athletic, and like a lot of this is just Wemby.
And Fox isn't even back.
Fox isn't back. You see how it works with the other guys, but he's trade eligible by the deadline, before the deadline.
Yeah.
Swap him out for a bunch of 3-and-D guys. Oh my God. Like the team is going to be insane.
By the way, with Devin Vassell on the court this season, they have a plus 25 net rating. Without him, they're minus 12.8 in this.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is honestly too, it's the Wemby just is like, I'm not shooting threes anymore. I don't need to. Like that's what I was going to say. Dramatically changing the geometry of the court for the Spurs. And I think that's something that we didn't really expect. I think it's something we've all talked about and saying like, why is this guy ever even bothering to shoot a 3? Like, it's okay if he does, it's fine, but at least it's if they're open, whatever. But he was taking almost 50% of his shots from 3 last year, or at least that's the way it felt. So, I think the swing is dramatically better for that team offensively, and you're getting so many other guys open looks.
I got a really fun small sample size for you guys. Victor Wembanyama right now, like Joe pointed out, he moved inside the arc. He's averaging 13.5 made twos per game, which is insane. Guess the highest Shaquille O'Neal had on made twos for a season in his career.
I would say 15.
12.1. So Wemby's higher than Shaq ever had from made two. Now it's a 3-game sample against pretty bad defenses in a different era, but that's insane. He's and
if you foul him, he'll make the free throws. That's the other difference.
Yeah. Yep. He's shooting 80%, and he's getting the line.
Real quick, just to throw this out there, DraftKings Sportsbook, crown is yours. Wemby for Cup MVP is 40-1 right now.
Oh boy.
It's not crazy.
Boy.
It's not crazy. Especially their group is.
I think, but this.
Oh,
I love that.
They're in a tough group though, because they got Denver, Houston, Golden State, Spurs.
Yeah,
Blazers.
I'm sorry, Joe. He's not locked in there with them. They're locked in there with Wemby. Okay,
fair, but it still is a tough group.
That's probably why you get the number, but I love that as a way, because I want ceiling like plus 270. It's already missing the best of the number on the Spurs, so I get why you're saying, are we chasing here? And maybe it is a little bit, and maybe it's buying high a little bit, but I didn't go all in on ceiling Spurs bets before the season, and I do have instant FOMO. And we joke sometimes that some of these bets we do are like, this is a fun bet that I want to have. I want to be watching Wemby every night. I want to be rooting for the Spurs. I think plus 270 isn't really, it's not a long number. We love our real long shots here, but it's almost 3-1. That's really not too bad, especially when paired with kind of the skepticism we had and still have about Houston.
Talk to me about these two before, because Wemby is 33-1 to be scoring leader on the season, and he's 10-1 to be rebounding leader on the season.
Yeah, you already hit the rebounds, right?
I don't know how those aren't. Yeah, I got a better number, but I don't know how those are still where they're at. I get that he's maybe not going to be 100% as consistent, but I mean, Jim kind of is alluding to, the volume is outrageous.
I want to fight this.
No, I wanted to fight it too, and I was like, I'll let Matt fight it. It's hard to.
I think those are fundamentally better bets than betting on him to be MVP. He's 3-1 to be MVP. Why would you bet that? I don't think that's a great bet.
I think bet now, and you could bet 18-1, and then forget to log it in the Action Network app.
If you don't log it, it's an auto win. That's how it goes.
Plus 275, by the way, at DraftKings.
Yeah,
wow. $16 a movement.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Unbelievable. Okay. So we have one more look for you, in case you're not sold, and because this might be a buy low spot on Houston.
Yeah,
but we're gonna talk about that when we get to our official Future Jays Future of the Week, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, right after this. The Buckets Podcast is teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, and 3 months of NBA League Pass. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BUCKETSNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BUCKETSNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Plus, 3 months of NBA League Pass. The crown is yours. The crown is yours. The crown can also belong to one Alperen Sengun, who's going to be our official Buckets Future Jays Future of the Week. We will log this in the Action Network app on the Buckets account, which you can follow in the Action Network app. Jim Turvey, talk to me about Alperen Sengun to win Most Improved Player.
Yeah, this is one that I had folks pitching to me over the summer, and I kind of kept shooting it down. I regret shooting it down, but we've got a good number. We still have a plus 10,000 out there, 100-1. There's just so many paths to him improving his stats here for Sengun. So first off, this is maybe the most surprising to me, and part of why I kind of shrugged it off originally. And it's only 2 games so far, but he's averaging like 38.5 minutes in regulation. I'm cutting out the double overtime of it all. Again, it's 2 games. But that's immensely from last season. I to the point that I'm doing projections for tomorrow. I was working on those before we came on here. I'm now projecting at 34 minutes a game. That's a pretty big jump. But we started the season with him around 31, 32. A couple minutes a game may not sound like much. That's 1 or 2 extra points right there. Then you add in he's taking 6 more field goal attempts a game. Again, slightly boosted by a double overtime game in there. But if you add 2 or 3 field goal attempts, that's another point or 2 a game. Then there's the change in the shot selection. His free throw percentage is up. His free throw rate is up. That's a point or 2 right there. He's taking 5 threes a game. up from 1.2 last season. He makes 1 extra 3 a game. That's 3 points a game. You add all these little things at the margins. The players who can't improve, it's like they already shoot, really good from 3. They already take a lot of threes. They already get to the line. He's got all of these different paths that make it pretty easy to see how he could jump up to like 27 points a game, 26 points a game. That's up from 19 points a game. If he's doing that with the 7 assists that he's averaged through 2 games so far, which again, those make sense to jump up without Fred VanVleet. If he's averaging 26 and 7, I know, Matt, you're on his MVP. I think 26 and 7 gets him into the conversation, but I think it kind of wins him MIP. If the Rockets are even halfway decent, he's going for 26 and 7. He's going to be in the MVP conversation in a very natural MIP player here. So, I was skeptical during the offseason a little bit, but looking at all these different ways around the margins, minutes, field goal attempts, free throw rate, free throw percentage, 3-point rate, there's just so many ways that he can add to his points in particular that I've come around. I really like this number for him to win most improved player.
He was real bad in that Detroit game and so amazing in the Thunder game. But I think the Thunder game is much more indicative of what we're going to see because they were just kind of out of sorts in that Pistons game. I went back and watched that, and I was just like, yeah, they're just kind of out of sorts here. So Houston, is going to be fine. And if they are as good as they could be, I just go back to this, like Sengun, I think really has value. And once I kind of realized, like, okay, I got the big number on him to win MVP, which would be incredible. But like, I could be mostly right and him not win because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander exists. and now Victor Wembanyama exists and miss on it. But he could still win, like you said, he could still win most improved. That's like the Ja Morant thing where it's like, hey, Ja is in the MVP conversation. And just getting to the MVP conversation was enough for Ja to win most improved player. That comp, I think, is very sound here. So, yeah, that is what we're going to go ahead and do here. I believe it's 80-1 right now. It's off the board at DK. Should be a backup tomorrow, though. And Alperen Sengun, most improved player, 80-1, is our official Buckets future of the week from the future.
Yeah, I definitely co-signed the 80. I gave out 50-1 on Fridays. I'm in at 50-1. So even if it comes back up at 50-1, I'm in on that number too.
Yep.
Yeah, I love
it. That is your official Future Jays Future of the Week, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. All right, let's do some best bets. Get to it for the Monday slate in the association. As we will do our 3-star, our 2-star, and our 1-star. Although I will tell you tonight, so we record on Sundays at 11. We start recording around 11 Eastern, or we start putting together the show around 11 Eastern. And a lot of the props aren't up because so many teams are on a back-to-back, which continue to be like, come on, guys, let's get some props up. We know what the games are. You know whether they're going to play or not. Let's go. Well, you know as much as you're going to know about whether they're going to play or not.
Right.
So we will start with Joe Dellera, but I will go ahead and I'll give Joe some grace here and say, like, Joe hasn't been able to see the whole board. These are early looks. These are his 3-star is a strong lean, but none of these are necessarily as strong as what he will probably find. You need to follow him in the Action Network app if you want to be able to track, and on Twitter at Joe Dellera if you want to get the absolute best of the best of the best. But we will go ahead and get to his 3-star play of the night. Joe Dellera, what do you like?
Yeah, so I'm looking at Steph Curry over 31.5 points plus rebounds. I like the spot here for Steph against this Memphis Grizzlies team who has kind of been like run ragged a little bit. I think that this is a good opportunity for him. He started off the season really well, and I think he's going to be able to carry over some of that momentum. He had actually struggled against Memphis for a number of like kind of years. He kind of struggled to get loose, but the last 2 games that he played against Memphis towards like the end of last season, I just absolutely went thermonuclear. So I think that there's a little bit of carryover there. Memphis overall, not the best rebounding team, especially as currently constructed. So I do like the opportunity for him to grab a couple extra rebounds there. And I don't mind adding that to the points, especially because Golden State has been a little bit more diverse in terms of who's getting the rebounds. It's not, they don't really have a big per se that's going to always scoop them up. So I like Curry in that regard. And I think that they always like to try to get out in transition as well, using Curry off some of the defensive glass. So I think it's a good opportunity for him. I think it's a good spot for him. And I don't really think that Memphis has a perfect player to try to defend him, especially with Jimmy Butler in town for Golden State, and then Kuminga's looked really good too. So I think that it's harder to put, one of their bigger bodies on Curry, and then it's always hard for Morant to kind of keep up with him. So Jalen Wells, I just also don't think is necessarily good enough to stymie Curry to the way that they would probably need him to. So I think at 31.5 PR, it's a little bit light, and Curry can always go over that with just points alone. So I'll grab 31.5 points plus rebounds for Steph Curry.
Joe, and I pardon me if you did say this, and I was just zoning out for a second, but Horford's also out, and his rebounds go up with Horford off the court as well.
I didn't, but perfect to add there, because I don't even think of Horford in the same way,
right? Exactly.
He's not like a supreme rebounder, but just even taking him off the court is going to boost this a little bit too.
All right, Jim Turvey, what is your 3-star bet of the night?
My 3-star bet is the Spurs. Shocking, given how much Wemby glazing has gone on this episode. But yes, that is part of it. I do think that this Spurs team is very strong, but the other side of it matters as well. So they're playing the Raptors here. Raptors on back-to-back. And so I wanted to poke around because I do like this Raptors team. They're a team I was on before the season. But because of the defensive ball pressure, I wanted to look into things and see, how they did on back-to-backs last season, kind of after they really started that, high ball pressure, really strong defense kind of identity they had. And they were 2-6 on back-to-backs in the new year last season. I think that kind of makes sense with the high ball pressure. Ironically, we're going to be talking about another team where I'm on the other side of that in a second. So I don't want to put too much weight into that. But I think that this Raptors team, it just isn't a great matchup for the Spurs regardless. I think the Spurs have decent athleticism to kind of get around some of that ball pressure, decent enough ball handling. And listen, Toronto, they just played Dallas, who I would argue is like one of the worst ball handling teams in the league, really struggled against them. So I think that Toronto team, they had a great debut this season. They beat the Hawks, haven't looked as strong since. And do we think Jakob Poeltl is slowing down Victor Wembanyama? I'm not really sure what their approach is going to be here. Maybe they'll be like quadrupling him and really making anyone else beat him. But I think that the level he's playing at right now, not even really sure if it matters. Like, they just don't have the height. Even if they double him, he's dunking over dudes with feet on the floor. Like, this Spurs team, I think, obviously based on, as when we talk through in the division, really high on them as a whole. I just think that this is a spot in particular to kind of fade Toronto on the back-to-back, that high pressure system, maybe burning out some legs and leaving them a little bit tired coming in this game against the Spurs with the strong start to the season that they've had.
Yeah, I think your only kind of concern point has to be rookie point guards versus the ball pressure that the Raptors bring. Like, that's an issue, but the Spurs haven't really been turnover prone. Like, that hasn't really been an issue here. I'm not going to touch it because my power rating right now is behind on the Spurs. They've been way better than I thought they would be. But I'm also not going to be like, hey, that I don't like it when it's like, hey, my number says this, and I'm just going to tell it it's stupid. That's what's the point of building a number. So I'm going to go ahead and hold off, but I can't object to this play at all. I think it's a pretty solid one. My 3-star play of the night is going to be Sixers plus 3.5. So, no Joel Embiid in this game. And that is why I am betting the Philadelphia 76ers. And I don't mean, look, Joel's not right, and he's been signaling he's not right. Like, there was a lot of stuff in the offseason. Like, the noise in the offseason was like, yeah, we don't know how much how much he's gonna be able to play ever again, right? And but in the minutes that I've watched them when he is off the court, they are phenomenal. They play with such verve. They play with such juice. It's Maxey and Edgecombe and Grimes. And it's like and Jared McCain's not even back yet. And you've got like Andre Drummond comes in because they're like, we need size. Okay. Like, Bona's not having didn't have a great matchup. Okay. Andre Drummond's going to come in and just grab every rebound and just like be a monster down low. cool. Kelly Oubre, slashing, driving, making big plays. This team is fun as hell with the non-core guys.
Yeah.
Which is going to make things kind of awkward if it continues, but I just kind of believe in this team. This is the Magic on a 3 and 4 spot on the road where the Magic have been bad the last couple of years. I think that they're honestly power rating is a little overrated at this point. I don't necessarily see any reason when we look at like the win-loss, like the resume so far, I can't get to a reason why Orlando should be a 3.5 point favorite on the road here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Sixers plus 3.5 and run for the hills. Cause I actually think that Tyrese Maxey, the guy like VJ is getting a lot of the credit and he should, he's been terrific. This rookie class is so good, but Tyrese Maxey is not getting enough of the credit for being like the adult in the room now. While all of this chaos and like not and like what's going to happen and Paul George and Joel Embiid and blah, 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 blah. Like Tyrese Maxey has gotten people organized. He is the one that's like settling guys down. He makes big plays when they need it. Like Tyrese Maxey is that dude. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the Sixers plus 3.5 here as my best bet for tomorrow.
That's the number caught my eye too. The only thing I want to add is like, man, as the longtime Joel Embiid defender who finally had to give up, like the fact that he's picking to play against the Wizards and not the Magic is just like, come on. Like,
yeah.
It's
like we know he's not playing back to backs. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible.
He'll probably have a monster game.
Yep.
Or like a monster 20 minutes. Yeah.
A monster 20 minutes. And, you know, they'll probably win that game. But I also think they'll win this one because I think that they're in a really good spot with how they're playing overall. I really like the way this team looks. It's an eye test thing. So I'm thinking Sixers plus 3.5. It's because sample size is too small for me to get an indication otherwise. All right, Joe Dellera, I'll let you give your 2 and your 1 star. They're kind of together here. What are your thoughts on your 2 and your 1 star tonight?
Yeah, so I do like the Sixers play, but these kind of go like against that, I guess, like a little bit. But I like VJ Edgecombe under 18.5 points and Franz Wagner over 22.5 points. Part of this has to do with, I think Edgecombe, he had that awesome, like incredible debut, 30-point game, just really, really looked great. Shot volume came down pretty significantly after that game. Obviously, you know, Embiid played, that kind of cuts into it a little bit, but I do wonder, you know, is he somebody that they're going to necessarily always try to feed every time? I don't think so. I don't think that it needs to go through Edgecombe. I think that, you know, outside of Maxey, then everything else can be a little bit more egalitarian. So I think that this 18.5 for Edgecombe is a little high, especially against this Orlando Magic team, even though I've always been a little bit more down on Orlando, but I do think that defensively they have a little bit more options in terms of their versatility to try to cover Edgecombe than some of the teams that Philadelphia has played prior. And then for Franz, I like the over 22.5. I think that he's somebody that can kind of regulate this offense a little bit better. Palos is always like inconsistent, not necessarily the most efficient. Whereas I think that Franz is somebody where he takes advantage of the opportunities. We know he can lead this team. We know that he can lead really like a couple different teams based on, you know, his play in international ball. But I think this over 22.5 is a good spot, especially without Joel Embiid there. You don't have that same body on the interior. So, you know, Franz can get into the paint, attack the rim. Obviously you have Andre Drummond, Adam Bona, but either way, neither of them, in my opinion, is just as good of a rim protector as Embiid is when Embiid is on the floor. Bona can get some blocks. He is, you know, a little bit more like jumpy, or so to speak. He's got a little bit more bounce into his step, but he still is somebody that'll still commit some fouls. So I like Franz over 22.5 points, and I don't mind kind of combining these. And I think honestly, if you combined it with the Sixers plus 3.5, you probably get a little bit of negative correlation based on what these props are too.
Well, why not throw in Sixers money line? Because if you do that,
you
can get 10-1 at DraftKings.
There you go.
Throw that one in there. If you do want to put his together, you get plus 236, which is a much more reasonable bet. So Joe Dellera likes VJ Edgecombe under 18.5 points, Wagner over 22.5 points.
Yes.
Jim Turvey, your 2 and 1 star plays on the night, please.
Yeah, I'm glad that this just popped because I was going to have to talk through a hypothetical for the 2-star, but we do have a number out here and I really like it. So Derrick White, Joe talked about him at the start of this episode, and I'm now going to be betting him later on. You can bet his points line right now at 19.5.
I'm in.
What's that?
I said I'm in.
Yeah, you're already sold. And I'm looking for up the ladder because part of this looks like you can get plus 550 on like a 30-point Derrick White night, because I think there is a decent chance that Jaylen Brown sits on this back-to-back. He was questionable on Sunday. He has the hamstring that's bothering him. Boston looks like they're, kind of playing around. Matt, you pointed out before we hopped on that, we look over at dunks and threes, maybe they're not quite as cooked as, the 0-3 suggests. But I do think they're going to be playing around here and not trying to push guys through things. So I really think there's a decent chance Jaylen Brown sits. When there's that possibility, like he's right now listed, his points prop is up. So they are baking in him playing for that Derrick White number to be 19.5. Now, maybe part of that is, there's a little bit baked in. But listen, Derrick White is, Joe walked through it. We talked through it at the start. Like, he is taking way more shots this season. They give up the Pelicans, who they're playing, the 9th most threes. White is actively leading the league in threes taken per game. He's taking 19 field goal attempts in general on the season per game. Again, the efficiency hasn't been there as strongly. And in a game without Jaylen Brown, it's only going to be, even more difficult for him to be efficient. But this Pelicans defense is far from amazing. I really think that White has a chance to go off here. So I like the baseline of the 19.5. But I'm going to sprinkle the escalators. I bet when it opens across books, we can find better than plus 550 on a 30-point game for him. It seems like they might be baking in a little bit of that Jaylen Brown. I bet we can get a better number of that elsewhere. So I really love the Derrick White angle on Monday to really kind of go off and really do it if Jaylen Brown's out there and try and get ahead of that news.
I like the look with Jaylen Brown. That angle is pretty smart. It seems very likely that he'll be out for this game. There's no reason for them to push it. I also kind of wonder if Boston's going to have to just kind of be like, look, guys, we're just not like we were going to go for it, but like we don't have any centers. We got no front court. So This is going to be one of those years, and you guys are going to not play as much as maybe you'd like to. What's your 1-star play?
I've got the Portland Trailblazers money line, and I wanted to wait on this until we saw the end of the Lakers game. We were watching this, kind of keeping tabs on it because Joe had a connection that was waiting on the triple double. Did you see the final stat line, Joe?
Oh my God, I can't believe I was talking about it with one of the guys in the huddle, and he had a $50,000. It was a $40,000 parlay. Like if it hit, he had LaMelo and Austin Reeves to have triple doubles.
No,
and we were talking about it, and we were like, I was like, honestly. I was like, it's probably not going to be the assist that lets you down. It's probably the rebounds. And
people listening, I hope you are looking at his box score right now where he went for 51 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists.
Oh. Yeah. And LaRavia missed like a wide open shot. It was a Reeves assist, and LaRavia just missed a total bunny. Otherwise, he would have had it. So I feel horrible for him. I couldn't believe it.
Devastating. But I will say, I think the cap for this is the Lakers, Reeves, incredible night. They pull out the win in Sacramento, but they are so banged up right now on a back-to-back. They just poured all of their energy into this game in Sacramento. They now got to go to Portland. They go back home, and Portland will be going that. And it's funny because this is not the inverse, right, of what I was saying earlier with the team with high ball pressure, where Portland was actually 8-0 on back-to-backs in the new year last year when they were, kind of this high ball pressure defense as well. I think it's going to be a nightmare for LA. Maybe you want to do Lakers team total under, but you can get the Portland money line at about a pick 'em. I'm not fiddle. I don't read the market very well. I think this number is only going to move towards Portland, and it's the side I want to be on anyway. So I'm going to be hitting this Trailblazers money line against the Lakers, who I think kind of had their first game. I feel like teams often survive that first game without their stars, and that's the second game where it's like, oh man, like we gotta get Luka back ASAP, and I don't think that's happening.
Portland 3-0 ATS, by the way, on the season after covering today. Don't mind that spot. It's early back-to-back spot, which can be a little bit tricky. It's weird. Some of the numbers I've been looking at basically say the first back-to-back that you run into, which this would be their first back-to-back, is rough, and then after that, it's easy. That one is rough against the spread. You perform worse than the market expects. And then after that, the early season is not that much of an effect. And then mid-season, it starts to really hit you. And that's when it gets brutal. Okay, my 2 and 1 stars on the night because Jim Turvey's got over 19.5 points for Derrick White, and the Blazers money line minus 115. Mine are going to be the I'm going to have Bryce Sensabaugh over 2.5 threes. I've bet this every game.
Love it.
And I don't know why they haven't adjusted this. This is they continue to keep it here. The Jazz are going to shoot threes. Bryce Sensabaugh is going to shoot threes. If it's a blowout, Bryce Sensabaugh is going to shoot threes. If it's a close game, Bryce Sensabaugh is going to shoot threes. Like there's like they've played all sorts of games, and that's what's happening. This line should be 3.5, and I expect it to be 3.5 at close tomorrow. So this is the rare play that I kind of have identified. He gets high quality looks in this offense too. I actually like a lot of what Utah's doing right now. It'll probably fade. They're probably that team that looks good in November and then crashes out. But like the approach right now, and I think Bryce Sensabaugh is absolutely a shooter. They can knock this down over 2.5 threes for Bryce Sensabaugh as my 2-star, and my 1-star is going to be the Chicago Bulls hosting the Atlanta Hawks minus 1.5. I make this right about on the number, but the Bulls have, to Jim Turvey's eternal credit, the Bulls have really impressed me. They have the number 1 defense in the NBA through 3 games. Woo, 3 games. But like Billy Donovan has a history of taking teams where you're like, they're going to be awful defensively. And then you get there and you're like, they're not so bad. And that's really what's going on. And offensively, they're not good, but neither is Atlanta's defense so far. Atlanta to me is completely unimpressive. Their signature win is the one versus the Magic, which was a close game until late, and the Magic blew that game, I thought, more than the Hawks won it. Meanwhile, I don't like it's fine they got killed by the Thunder. I'm not gonna blame Atlanta for getting killed by OKC at home. That's fine. They're also their entire front court is banged up, but their entire front court's banged up. Like they're banged up to start the season too. And so we've got no proof of life on the defensive end, and they're banged up on defense. And they're facing the Bulls team that is scrappy and fast, and they have weapons now. I can't believe it, but they have weapons now, and they're playing really well. So I like the Bulls minus 1.5 here as my 1-star, and that's going to be our best bets, which you can see on the screen now. Joe Dellera, Steph Curry over 31.5 points and rebounds. VJ Edgecombe under 18.5 points. Franz Wagner over 22.5 points. Again, these are like quote mark 3-star. I should have put quote marks on the graphic for these for Joe. Jim Turvey more confident and not a coward. Spurs minus 4. Derrick White over 19.5 points. And Blazers money line is his 1-star. I like the Sixers plus 3.5. Bryce Sensabaugh over 2.5 threes. And the Bulls minus 1.
By the way, I'll just say I said before the podcast, I'm a podcast listener. I'm not a YouTube watcher. I'm an old man or something, I guess. You should, even if you're a podcast listener, you should come check out the graphic. It's actually pretty sick. And Matt put good time into that. I think that looks really cool. So come check out us on YouTube if you don't already watch that way.
I made it myself. So. My own crayons. That's gonna do it. I'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Best Bets. Tomorrow, King of the Court. So make sure to tune in. You can catch us live at 11 o'clock Eastern at youtube.com/The Action Network. Download the Action Network app. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.